All right, so for this week's Call in the Ring, we are going to do something a little bit different than we normally do. Normally, we each have like a little segment, and we have our own list and all this, but today it is story time with Adam D, baby. Where
Yeah.
last week, before the podcast, we were, talking and sharing stories as we normally do, and Adam brought up that he was at a show where New Jack tried to kill somebody with Wolverine claws. I guess I'll let him elaborate.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh, yeah.
so. I said, no, we're not just going to gloss this over with like a 10-minute story. You're going to tell the story of this show and all of its craziness on next week's Caught in the Ring. So that's what we're doing. So Adam, go ahead.
So, okay. To give you a little background, because no Adam's story is a short one. You need context. This was the third WrestleMania that I went to. The first one that I went to, I went with Aaron, Houston. I went 2 years later in Atlanta with some of my buddies. Those same buddies I went for another two WrestleManias, 29 and 31. So this was in New Jersey prior to WrestleMania 29, which was an all-time letdown with the exception of The Undertaker and CM Punk. I want to put that in there. That match was the only saving grace on that show. The Raw after was an all timer. I want to slam me. So, there's that. But we didn't just do WrestleMania and the Raw after. We came in, I think on uh Wednesday, maybe Thursday, and we did a couple of things that WrestleCon was doing. Uh, One of the indie shows that were there, because this was during the era, like this was right when people were starting to pick up that going to the same town that WrestleMania was in. I mean, and WWE was there in that same town for a week. So going to that town and putting on your own indie shows and putting on wrestling conventions was lucrative because people were already in town for wrestling related purposes. So you can, and there were thousands and thousands and thousands of them. So you could make money by, putting on indie shows and stuff like that. So the one we went to was the Pro Wrestling Syndicate uh, event on April 4th, 2013, 2013, at the SMG Sportsplex in Metuchen, New Jersey. Um, Metuchen, New Jersey is fine. It's not, I'll say this. As a New Yorker, I am obligated to hate on New Jersey. It's in the contract you sign as soon as you come out the womb. So like we're just haters. They hate us right back. It's fine. It's a mutually agreed upon situation. We all hate each other. We're all fine with it. Much like I imagine it's the same with Aaron, you being Texan, and Oklahomans. Very much the same kind of vibe that I get.
Oh, totally rough for me because most of my family's from Oklahoma. Um, yeah, I shouldn't be
Don't say that out loud. Now they're gonna hate on you.
they can hate.
Hey, 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 hey. Um, but I will say it's certainly not the worst place in New Jersey I've ever been. I think Newark is one of the scariest places I've ever been outside the airport. The airport is the only place there that I felt safe. Um, but I kind of define it as like anything on the coast of New Jersey. It's very urban and kind of dirty and dangerous to a degree, varying degrees. But there's a reason they call it the Garden State. So any place that's like off the coast is gorgeous. There's amazing natural beauty in the majority of the state of New Jersey. That's not where the majority of the people live, but it's where the majority of the beauty is. Man, I'm gonna get us hated on. But the point is, Metuchen is not super far from New York City. It's not super far from where we were staying in Jersey City, which is like directly across the state line. Like we were right. Like I don't think we were a mile from the state line where we were staying. So we go to Metuchen. and it's this big sports complex, local sports complex. It's not like it's huge, but it's got like an indoor soccer stadium and stuff like that. Um, we built one in my hometown. We built like one of those indoor sports complexes, but ours is bigger than theirs, so it's kind of contained. Huge ceilings though, the acoustics, everything bounced off of it. So you could hear a lot. In some cases, you could hear the wrestlers calling their matches, uh, which was yeah. But the thing that I remember immediately was getting in there, and it was well before the show. It was maybe an hour before the show actually started, and everybody had their merch tables lined up and stuff like that. They had a lot of big names, uh, and the one who immediately at the time I would have said accosted. I will be kinder now and said, try to make an opportunity for themselves. The person who came up and was probably most aggressive about meeting people and subsequently getting them over to their merch table was Ricky Morton. He and Robert Gibson were there. They had a match on that show, and Ricky was he is a very gregarious individual. I don't know if any of you watch AEW with RJ City. They release a new episode every Sunday. It's a humorous interview segment. And since the Rock and Roll Express were on Collision a couple of weeks ago, uh, they took the opportunity to have them be interviewed by RJ. And it's a great episode, one of the best ones. You should definitely go watch it. But if you watch that episode, you will definitely see that Ricky Morton is, I don't know if anybody is more pure personality than that man. Like, he has such a way about him. He is so likable and he is so people friendly. Like, I can understand why he got as far in his business as he did, because he is like the personification of positivity without patting himself on the back for it.
Yeah.
Like, but that does make him an aggressive salesman, and he was very much trying to get every single person in that building over to his merch table. And so we're like, no thanks. So we politely waved him off, and we went to go around and check out the building. One of my friends, John, who later on this trip, in the parking lot at MetLife Stadium where we were tailgating, I gave him a knife edge chop on his bare chest, and made him throw up. And I've never chopped anybody again. I don't have any formal training, so I don't know how badly I messed up. But yeah, I made a man throw up with the chop. So, Gunter, don't come at me. Uh,
You might.
you won't like what you see, what you find. Um, but yeah, but that friend, John, he struck up a conversation. This was right after, actually, he had his mouth wired shut. He had gotten a jaw injury, and I think he had his teeth wired. No, I couldn't have been. I don't know. I'm an old man. I'm getting my stuff mixed up. But what I do know is that he did buy a little button off of Colt Cabana with the Star of David on it because it was funny. Colt Cabana was Colt Cabana kind of is exactly how you see him. Like, what you see is what you get with Colt. There's not really much like fake about that presentation. He's just kind of a goofball, and
Yeah.
I kind of love him for it. Honestly, I'm a huge goofball myself. I was so starstruck though. I didn't talk to like anybody. Like, I had and continue to have anxiety issues with meeting people like that. But it was still a fun time. The like the commissioner for that show, the night, the one night commissioner was Vader. He came out in a suit but still wearing his mask. And you see them on TV and you see everybody next to each other, and because especially with his era, everybody was like Land of the Giants. You kind of forgot that not only was he wide horizontally, he was also wide, vertical. big. Like he was 6'4". Like, he was a large man vertically as well. And it wasn't. I didn't really realize that until I saw him in person, because this is the first time I think I'd ever seen him in person, at least up close. And like, holy cow, that dude's enormous. I didn't realize I forgot that he was that tall, because when you're going up against guys who are like, you know, 6'5" on the reg, it doesn't really register as being out of the norm.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he was playing like the kind of baby face ish, one night commissioner for the show. I'm looking at the card here, and half of these, I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember half of the stuff that happened, because I was with my friends having a good time and stuff like that. But just looking at the names on some of the show, the first match was Trent Beretta versus Sanjay Dutt. Love me some Sanjay. Trent goes over. I don't really remember much about that match, but I remember the crowd, the pop for the first match was big, like it always is, which was a good sign. Um, Fatal Four Way for the PWS Tag Team Championship featured a lot of names that I still to this day don't recognize. So sorry, guys. I hope y'all's careers are doing well, though. Like I honestly mean that. I don't know any of you guys, but I mean, okay. The Southside Players Club of Joe Hardway and Mo Sexton, they were accompanied to the ring by Amber O'Neil and Shelly Martinez. I knew the girls. I knew Shelly at least, and Amber, but like I didn't know that. Singles match. Dan Maff defeated Kevin Steen. I remember really being upset about that because I liked Steen. I was like, oh no, I don't even remember how it happened, how he went over. But Dan Maff, still kind of mad that you went over Steen to this day. Simon Dean came out next. Simon still hawking the Simon system. Did not seem to be taking it, because he was not in good shape. He was defeated by, and I kid you not, a wrestler named the Drunken Swashbuckler. Wrestling, guys, can be anything. And it was no more evident than in the next match, where Alex Reynolds, yes, that Alex Reynolds of Dark Order, but much younger, who was the PWS Tri-State champion, defended his title against Starman from the Pro Wrestling NES video game from 1986.
Oh, geez.
He was pink. He had the purple trunks. He had the star on his face. He moved like he was in 8 bits. It was spectacular. Reynolds attacked Starman, he attacked him before the bell, and kind of got the advantage on him and beat him. And then Vader came out and was like, "Nah, that's not acceptable, because you did heel things. We rematched. We're gonna restart the match." And then Starman won the Tri-State Championship. It was great. One of the biggest pops of the night. It was fantastic. It was like, it's Starman. Oh, and I think the next match was okay. It was a 7-way hardcore scramble match. 7. Why 7? What? I don't know. New Jersey. I don't know. But it was Apollyon, Lucifer Darkside, Devin Moore, Matt Tremont, Tommy Dreamer, and the Necro Butcher, and New Jack.
Oh.
So this was a hardcore scramble, right? So it was just a 7-way, one fall to a finish kind of deal. I don't remember the finish. I know Necro Butcher went over. I don't remember the finish. What I do remember is some of the action in that match. There was this scaffolding kind of deal, this metal scaffolding. I think they were trying to build, I don't know what they were trying to build, or maybe they were trying to fix part of the ceiling or something, but there was this metal scaffolding that New Jack, being New Jack, decided that he was going to climb up on top of and dive all onto the other competitors from about, I don't want everything in wrestling is exaggerated. I don't, I I was far away. I can't necessarily judge the height with any degree of accuracy, but that must have been at least 25 feet in the air. At least. At least. So New Jack just over the top. Everybody, it's crazy. And then later in the match, he pulls out what I can only describe as Wolverine Claws and starts slicing people up. Blood is everywhere. It's a mob scene at this point. No, I had no idea what was going on. The Necro Butcher went over, the match was over, and then they went to uh, the uh, the intermission. But we're not done with New Jack yet, because intermission was when New Jack got on the microphone and let loose with what appeared to be a very angry shoot promo that dropped several N bombs, hard R N bombs, uh, like, it was. I mean, as memorable as Wolverine Claws of all things were, I think it was the promo that actually was the one that got wrestling banned from Metuchen, New Jersey for quite a time. I thought it was still that, but in the research for the show, I guess they actually have their first, I think it's their first wrestling show since that match coming, or I think they had it in 2024 at some point, but like that's an 11-year ban at most, because I don't think it was the violence. I honestly think it was New Jack's promo where he just used every swear word in the book, and he dropped every permutation of the N word that you could think of. And it was just, and we didn't like, it's not like he was appearing elsewhere on the show. He was setting something up that we could determine. It was just, he was just going off because he was probably high and he was probably drunk because he was all absolutely New Jack. So, oh man, what a legacy that guy has. May he rest in power, I guess. I don't know. He was a bad person. He was a bad person, guys. Anyway, we come back from absolute chaos of an intermission. I've never had an intermission that chaotic. Everybody was uncomfortable. Nobody knew what to do. Everybody was rushing to the bathroom or to a merch table to try to not have to be associated with this promo. If I remember correctly, he had to be like ushered out by people who I didn't recognize. So they weren't, I don't think they were wrestlers. I think they were promoters or security or somebody independent or something like that. It wasn't the boys who calmed him down, that's for sure. But we came back uh, from intermission to a battle royal. This was fun. Some guy named Bonesaw, who wasn't Randy Savage, won. He beat
ready.
Bonesaw was ready. Oh, yeah, dig it. Um, but he beat Corey Havoc, Devious, Facade, Francis Kipling Stevens, John Silver, Lance Anoa'i, the Big O, Timmy I, Hurricane Helms, and the guy in the match that I was most excited to see in his return to the ring after several years off. And I think this might have been one of his last shows too. The Human Tornado was on this show, and I was like, I popped huge for the Human Tornado. I was like, I remember you from Wrestling Society X. Like, great. You were great in PWG from what I've seen of it. Like, I was really sad when he or Hurricane didn't win, but whoever the Bonesaw guy was, looking at those names, I'm just thinking, like, not to disrespect anybody, but like, even in E-Feds, I've seen better names than some of this. Like devious, it's an adjective. It's not a name. Like what are we doing here? Um, John Morrison then defeated Elijah Burke in an okay match because Elijah Burke is just okay. Uh, the best thing about Elijah Burke on this show was that after the show, we saw him erupting from a Nissan Sentra that was full of suspiciously smelling smoke. Uh, Bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, the whole deal. Like it was, he was baked. He was long past baked. He was broiled. Um,
My man's
but
got.
yeah, that was. I want to say he didn't work the match high. I don't want to imply that he didn't. That was definitely after the show as we were heading to our car that we saw that. But it definitely happened. We saw it. I seen it. I seen it. Next match was the Briscoes taking on the Rock and Roll Express, which was it was fun. Like I mean, let's be real here. They're old now, but they were old then too. And so they did what they could. And Ricky Morton played as good a Ricky Morton as anybody's ever played a Ricky Morton. Uh, but the Briscoes lose when Jay takes a double drop kick, which to go back to an earlier point you made, I thought was like I know that's their finish, but that was their finish from 1986, and like Mark and Jay Briscoe, I've seen them in ladder wars. Like I don't know, man, something don't smell right. But it's fine, PWS heavyweight title match. Kevin Matthews, whoever he was, he didn't really. I don't know. He didn't make an impression on me. Defeated Colt Cabana and made everybody sad. But that wasn't the main event. The main event made everybody happy, including this guy, because I got to see in a triple threat match Tony Nese, Davey Richards, and Jushin Thunder Liger.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I was in heaven. I love Liger. Liger's, I think he's arguably the best junior heavyweight, cruiserweight, whatever, however you want to categorize him, the best of all time. I love the guy. It was so cool to see him live. I'd never seen him live before, and I would never see it live again. But it was so cool to see him. I think he beat Richards. I think he pinned him with the Liger Bomb, if I'm not mistaken, the running Liger Bomb. But it was so cool. Like I needed it too after seeing all that blood spilt with Wolverine claws and lots of uncomfortable language being used by somebody you couldn't really answer to because what were you going to say to New Jack? um, it was really, really, really cool to see Jushin Thunder Liger, a veritable legend in this business, on a card that was full of legends, really. But it was a pleasure to see him work, and he was as good as I've ever, he was as good as I expected. It was fantastic. But yeah, like uh, it was. I love going to indie shows, but there's something special about the indie shows that happen before a WrestleMania because they attract a lot of bigger names, so you get a lot of talent that you've never seen before interacting with talent that are very actual legends. You get it's so cool, but it also goes to show that you don't really know what you're going to get in a good way and also in a bad way. Sometimes you see murder attempted in front of you. Uh, it was, I mean, it was definitely the most interesting, weirdest show I've ever been a part of. I can't think of any other wrestling shows I've ever been to that have been quite this chaotic.
Right.
But it does go to my point. My point in telling this story is please go. If you're not a person who goes to indie shows, please go because there's more outside of in the world of wrestling than just the big brands. And if you're local, if you have a local fed, go and support them. You never really know. I mean, a lot of them can get big names, for like 1 day payouts. I've seen a lot of guys who were former and then future big names come through my local feds. Like, and you can see them at an affordable price before they become huge stars. You know, you're watching the future when you go to when you go to indie feds these days. You know, not everybody on the show is going to make it, but you know, one or two of them these days probably will. There's more places for them to work than ever. So, and I don't think there's ever been as rich a talent pool in the history of wrestling than there is right now. Like, look at how stacked the AEW and WWE rosters are right now. They're full of guys who could conceivably be world champions, but not everybody can be a world champion.
Mm-hmm.
Like they Osprey, best wrestler in the world, currently working, in my opinion, relegated to upper mid card status because you know they've got plans and they've got so many other guys that are in the world title scene right now. But that's a great thing because you can get draws all over the card now instead of just at the top. But
Mm-hmm.
like, there's so much talent out there. Go be on the ground floor, watch somebody rise from the bottom up. It's really rewarding as a wrestling fan just to be able to say, I saw that guy in such and such a town when I was, 3 years ago, and now he's on the big stage. That's so cool for him. You feel like you're not, I mean, you feel like you're a small part of it because, you paid a ticket to see that person that helped, that person along. If, a few of those people don't show up for that show, that may be something that turns a wrestler off and be like, maybe this isn't worth it because I'm not drawing the crowds that I want. Go support them, support your indie feds locally because it's not just for them but for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a proponent of go to see your local indie feds. We got about 3 or 4 here. I don't get to make it out as much as I want to, but there's also 3 or 4 of them. So
Yeah, me too. I've got the young kids and a wife who works not overnights but second shift, so it's hard for me to get out and support like I would want to too. But I would encourage anybody who has the opportunity to go do it. Absolutely.
I do anytime I can for sure, and it's always a good time. Even if I don't know anybody on the card, it's I get to watch some wrestling. I get to go back. So a lot sometimes I know the people, so I'm backstage. And I'm like, hey, that was a good match. Never seen you before.
Yeah, you never know who you're going to discover. Like that's part of the fun.
Yeah. So yeah, dude, I had to get this segment out with that crazy ass story. Maybe one day
Yeah.
Super Card of Honor 4. And
Yeah.
we'll talk about that one.
Yeah.
That has
I mean, that has the story that's interesting about that is what happened afterwards, mostly.
Yeah.
I mean, not that the show wasn't good because it was,
Yeah.
and it kind of chaotic in and of itself too, as I recall. But yeah, the the more interesting story is the party afterwards.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, I think that's it for tonight. For the Call It in the Ring.
Yeah.
You remember everybody, check us out on our socials. We will see you next week before Raw, as we always do. Remember that we love you. Take good care of yourself, and thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you. We'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.
If you're wondering where else you can find the Smark Foundation podcast, you can stream our show on Pandora, Spotify, and nearly anywhere else you normally stream your podcasts from, including our home at rss.com. We're also on YouTube, featuring not only full episodes of our show, but individual segments from each episode for easier content digestion. For any of those outlets, just type Smark Foundation Podcast into the search bar to find us. If you'd like to interact with us directly, we're very active on our new social media home, Blue Sky. You can contact the show at smarkfndnpodcast.bsky.social for general pro wrestling or podcast comments. And if you want to get to know us each a little bit more on a personal level, Aaron's personal account is at aaronsmark.bsky.social, and Adam's is at adamsmarkfndnpodcast.bsky.social. If you'd like to further support our show, you can visit our shop at smarkfoundationpodcast.printful.me to purchase various merchandise with our show's logo on it. Wear your SFP t-shirt or hoodie around town and spread the word about the show that strives to bring fans together around what's great about pro wrestling today, brought to you by a couple of everyday elder millennial wrestling fan dads. Now back to the